DYCD, Barbershop Talks. Fatherhood matters. Diverse. Hey yo, these is barbershop talks where the fathers pop off. Brag about relationships and argue about sports. Every topic's a favorite, is how we plot course toward changes. It all begins with dialogue and patience. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys.
Good evening once again here at another barbershop talk, where we get our talk on. We have another hot topic. We have some great guests here tonight. We're going to talk about getting fiscal. You know, in today's time, we always got to really think a lot about our money and how we can keep our money, how we can make our money work for us, and once again, how we can hold on to money. And also, we're going to even talk a little bit about what happens when you get into debt, even how to get out of debt. A lot of our people, you know, just get really deep in debt. Before they know it, they're way over their heads with debt, especially those things called credit cards. If you don't have credit cards, don't get them. Leave them alone, okay? Especially if you're in college. If you're in college students, don't go for the okie doke. Don't get that credit card. They say, here, we'll just send you a credit card. Just go ahead and use it. 4 years later, still paying for it, okay? So we have a great group of people tonight. We're going to talk about fiscal, because we want to help our people to become more fiscally responsible with their money and how they grow their monies. So I'm going to introduce my guest, Mike Bobbitt. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Scott. Good to see you. Always a pleasure to be in the barbershop with you. I was on mute, but I was laughing very hard because it reminded me of when I started in college. And I don't know how it is now, but when I started in college, I think the credit card companies presumed that these kids, they may not know what they're doing, but a parent or somebody, or parents help them pay for these kids to go to college, they're going to rescue them from debt. So let's just throw credit cards at them and let them go crazy and spend while they're adolescents, and, you know, they're putting, you know, pizza dinners on their credit cards and stuff. So I had to live through my 20s, and I went to a counseling service to try to figure out, how do I get a better handle on this, and how do I do a better job managing my money, like right after I got out of college. And, you know, it took years and years to try to fix certain things. And you know what they say, when you know more, you try to do better, right? When you know better, do better. And so my kid turned 13, and I went to our bank and I asked, what's a product for her? And so we set her up. She doesn't have a credit card. It is a debit card. And there's only as much money as I allow her to have on that card, right? So I said, all right. I sat her down, and at first she was shook. Like she wasn't even sure she wanted to have it, because it felt like a lot of responsibility. And then I noticed this summer, school's out now, and she's like, oh, Dad, can I have that card? I said, oh, you ready? You're ready for this responsibility for this card? Yeah, no, I think so. I said, well, where are you going to keep the card? How are you going to keep the card safe? How are you going to, you know, we like sat down the whole thing. She's looking at me, Dad. I'm like, but you weren't ready before. You said you weren't ready. This has been waiting for you till you were ready. So she assured me she's ready. So she's got the card now. But my wife is like, she doesn't have that. No, money that we put in savings for her, she cannot draw that on the card. It's only what we move over. Then I was like, all right, fine.
But don't worry, Mike. I would tell you, because I did that with my son. I remember my son calling me at the end of dinner somewhere. He's like, Dad, you got to put money on it. I can't pay the bill.
Exactly. The check is going around. I'm tight. Right.
So,
there's so much we could talk about. One thing I want to say is we've been doing the barbershop talks for a little over 2 years now. And there's so many things we can talk about, but it's no surprise to me when certain subjects come back. So we've had a lot of conversations about mental health and well-being, and we'll probably have many more conversations about that. And we've obviously had a lot of conversations directly about the coronavirus. That's what created the need to do the barbershop. We had the quarantine, but it's no surprise to me that this is the third conversation we're having about money and about finances, and let's get fiscal. So, and each conversation we try to bring new folks and new energy and spend time on new topics around this because it's big. And so I'm actually excited about what we're going to do right now. It's going to be brand new. And people who want to go in the archives, you should. You should go later on in the archives on YouTube. You can see Let's Get Fiscal Part 1, Part 2 that we did last summer. But here we go for round 3. So what were you going to say, Scott? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh no, I was gonna go ahead and tell you. So go ahead. Why don't you start introducing our guests and bring him on in so we can get rolling about this finances.
All right, let me do some introductions now. So again, you talked about debt and you talked about getting ahead. And one of the things that we wanted to spend some time on tonight is generational wealth. How do we learn these lessons now? And like that little story I was telling, when you know better, you do better, trying to set my daughter up better for success, even though she'll make her own mistakes. That's only natural. And so we try to get some heavy hitters who can help us talk and think about what we need to do now and how it's going to pay off for us and our families later on. And so among these heavy hitters, one is a great brother, and he actually is my fraternity brother as well. That's how I able to be in his company introduced to him. And he is now the president and financial advisor for the Harvest Family Business Solutions. Great guy, very caring guy. And when you hear more about what he has chosen to focus on, you will realize that he's come with a big bag of jewels that he's going to hand out and share here at the Barbershop. So welcome to the Barbershop, Lauren G. Hammond.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike Bobbitt. Thank you, good brother. I'm happy to be here with everybody. So my thing is helping businesses go from Main Street to the mainstream to the next generation, because we hear so much about, like the Tulsa Massacre now, and, what Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, really meant to those people. And I think that we're forgetting that, we have the power to do that all over the country now, but we just have to get businesses, family businesses together and get them, the right tools that they need, within the family in terms of financial literacy and controls, and 2, within their business so they can go to the next level. But, we'll get into it. I want to let everybody else jump in here and, so we can, chop it up a little bit more. So thank you for the introduction.
Sounds good, Lauren. Thank you and welcome. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Lilius John. And I'll tell you a quick story about Lilius. She's from the community. We go back a long ways. We're members of the same parish at one point. She's not just focused in Brooklyn, New York right now. She's sort of on a national stage, but she was able, through the courtesy of technology, right, to kind of beam in and join our discussion right now. And Lilius is a finance coach and an owner of yourfinancialstylist.com. So how could we not have this conversation without trying to pull Lilius in? Thank you for making yourself available. Welcome to the Barbershop.
Thank you, Mike. I don't spend much time in the barbershop, but I'm very happy to be here. I think I've known Mike since I was like 6 years old. And I definitely went through the same exact experience of being at college, trading my Social Security number for t-shirts and mugs, and really getting into a lot of trouble with debt. Thankfully now the law does not allow credit card companies even on college campuses. So that is a very good thing, but I'm happy to be here with you guys. I am a finance coach. I started in New York, actually in Harlem, and I've been teaching financial literacy since 2008. And Manuel and I have actually taught some sessions together. So I'm excited to see her here as well.
Nice. You set me up too. That's a nice segue. So I'm gonna steal this. She was on my introduction list anyway, Scott. I just forgot to tell you a moment ago. So next I want to introduce Manuel. I better say this correctly and slap me on the wrist if I get it wrong. Manuel Akinfe Reed, who's the director of financial. Nice. I got it.
Nice.
All right. I try, Director of Financial Education for Mobility Capital Finance, Inc. And one quick word about Manuel's organization. Those of you who were with us at the end of last year when we did Legacy, one of her colleagues, Bill Stephanie, who was my first employer coming out of college, he joined us in that conversation. And so we knew a little bit about mobility capital finance. We said, can we please have one of your colleagues join us when we have this discussion? And he put us in touch with Manuel, who we didn't even know was in league with Lilius, and now we got them both. So welcome to the Barbershop.
Thank you. What's up, y'all? Yes, Mocafy, Mobility Capital Finance, is a fintech company. It's better known as Mocafy. So what we do is we provide quality financial products for the under and unbanked. And we also help cities get funding to the unbanked and also just their population through our platform. So that's Mobility Capital Finance. I've been in financial services and financial coaching for a long time. As Lilia said, I go way back. So it's really good to see familiar faces on the Barbershop. And I would love to be a fly on the wall or a butterfly on the wall in most men's barbershops. So I'm glad that y'all let me in just freely. I don't even have to be a butterfly on the wall. I could just be here.
I like that turn of phrase, though. You could be a butterfly in the barbershop if you want, but you're in the barbershop tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. So, and my next introduction is someone who almost needs no introduction to the DYCD family. And we do try to have a lot of colleagues of Scott and mine join us in the barbershop. She has spread her wings, formerly from DYCD and now as a VP and community manager with Chase, Shakima Figueroa Collins. So please introduce yourself. And Shakima brought a whole squad. So I'm going to go on mute and Shakima is going to introduce herself and everybody that she brought from Chase with her to be in the barbershop. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. And I am like you, Manuel. I am excited to be in the barbershop because honestly, I have never been in the barbershop. So I feel honored for this opportunity. I am so excited to bring to you a dynamic group of Chase employees where we are able to talk more about generational wealth. Chase has made a commitment in 2020, and one of it is this commitment is focused on building generational wealth by reducing racial wealth disparities. So we'll go into it. I will introduce my first sidekick, Wayne Davis, who will introduce himself, and then he'll pass the mic along. Thank you.
First of all, good evening, everyone. And I'm delighted to be here with Mike and Scott. What a phenomenal introduction. And I think we've got just a really esteemed panelists that you've put together, just hearing some of the background. So I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm the community manager for Money Earning Mount Vernon. I've had a 20.
Westchester.
Yeah, we're in the house. And 25 career in finance. I want to give time to other people, and I'm so excited to be on the in the barbershop with such an extreme group of experts. So I'm really excited to see what we can share with the audience to really help them improve their finances and live the life they've imagined.
From that, I'll pass it along to Dwayne Winter.
Man, well, first and foremost, just thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this great conversation tonight. I wasn't gonna get a haircut, but since we're here, you know, I figure I got next. So hopefully I got my appointment still open. But in any event, I am a private client advisor with JP Morgan. I have been with the firm now since 2005. And I look forward to providing some great information tonight. Also, I'm a restaurant owner as well, repping the brand. There we go. Don't tell JP Morgan. Actually, it's been approved. But anyway, again, thank you guys for the opportunity.
And Kofi is our next heavy hitter.
Thank you, Shakima. Hello, everyone. My name is Kofi Achen. I am a senior business consultant with JP Morgan Chase Minority Entrepreneur Program. It is a new program that provides advisory and educational services to our brothers and sisters. We'll probably go into more details later. But unlike my two colleagues, I made my living as a youngster from the barbershop back home in Ghana. I used to get a ticket to go and see soccer and the ticket is VIP. And when I go to VIP, I never enjoy myself. So I go to the barber shop and sell the ticket and break it down and go to lower stations where they call it popular stand and keep the rest of the money. So I'm happy to be here and hope we enjoy ourselves.
Wow. Shakima, you did bring a whole. Is anybody at the bank anymore? This is about the best time to go to the bank and rob it. You know, everybody's here. So
Don't say that. That's crazy.
but we also have
Don't say that. That's crazy.
That's not the way to get your financial literacy together,
That's
robbing
right.
banks.
Exactly.
But we are here for the barbershop.
It was a trick question, y'all. Exactly. And make sure people are paying attention. Right.
You got all the bankers nervous, Mike. You got all the bankers nervous.
No, it wasn't Mike, guys.
Look, Mike's like, let's be clear. That was Scott.
Listen, we all gonna have some fun, but we also got some other guests. So we have Ed Singh, which is Ed is here from New York City Department of Consumer Affairs and Work Product. Ed, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. And I'm a community affairs associate with the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. You may better know us as Department of Consumer Affairs. We've changed our names because at the end of the day, we're all consumers, but we're also in charge of protecting the workers in our great city as well. So yeah, happy to be here to share a little bit more about what we do as an agency to protect the marketplace from predatory practices and getting everyone just here to share community outreach about our Office of Financial Empowerment and the things that we do. And I'm joined here by my colleague, who is a service provider, Felix from Arriva.
Felix?
Yeah, guys, thank you for having me. Yes, Felix Soriano here from Arriva. I'm a financial counselor, and we basically work on helping communities improve their personal finances with budgeting, savings, credit repair, building credit for those people that don't have any credit and want to start building it. And yes, so we work to improve their finances and just kind of like basically have them start working into their like goals, like they want to start a business, purchasing homes and etc. So I'm happy to be here and thanks for having me.
So group, so let's kick it off. Let's just jump into it. Often we have a lot of folks.
Don't forget about me.
Oh, Jason. I'm sorry, Jason.
Last but not least, let's do it.
I'm sorry, Jason Young.
I know I'm a Californian, so. But.
Well, Jason Young, we give you a special welcome. We have Jason Young. Go ahead, Jason.
So it's great to be here. I am here representing NYC, National Endowment for Financial Education. And, we're a nonprofit and we champion high quality financial education for all Americans. And in my previous life, I actually ran a startup called Mind Blown Labs, which focused on creating highly engaging experiential financial education through mobile games, first for kids and then for young adults. And we did a lot of work around not only education, but using gamification and behavioral economics to help change attitudes, increase financial confidence, increase actual real life saving and investing behaviors. And I would just say that some of the conversations that we've had thus far have really resonated with me. While I was fortunate to avoid, credit card debt for the most part, I saw a lot of my family members struggle with credit card debt. And, I think has been said, I think I heard folks saying they were paying it off for years. I've seen my family members, struggle with it, for decades. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation.
So, folks, as did I get everybody? I think I got everybody. Okay. So, Mike, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, since Jason introduced himself, that we're big fans of NYC, and they were great supporters talking about some of DYCD's work. So I had the pleasure of doing one of their podcasts some months ago, where we had some folks from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, and we got to talk about some of the ways we've been bringing financial literacy information to some of our other programs. And it's really nice to have Jason representing his work and that work here. That's it. But take it away, Scott.
No, well, I'm maybe going right back to Jason. So Jason, strap in. Okay. So because we have a lot of people and we have in our community always trying to get their hustle on, but they never can find a way how to break into that game. So they need to get financially ready to get going. What would you say, and I'll start with Jason, what would you say for somebody who has an idea and says, hey, listen, I know I got this niche, I'm passionate about it, I want to get this business off the ground. What are some of the first steps they should do getting ready and getting prepared to go into this adventure of opening and starting their own business?
Man, so that's, I guess there is a lot there. I think, first of all, I just want to say, I think entrepreneurship can be so powerful, and it can be an extraordinary way to build wealth. I think the key, there are a few keys, right? So one is, it's really important, especially if you're talking, about Black folks, people of color. A lot of us don't have the financial backing a lot of us don't have the financial backing that others do. And the reason I mention that is because I've been an entrepreneur for most of my career. I know I had worked for a startup once, and I remember the founders, when they got ready to start their business, the grandmother said, hey, I've got a vacation home in Florida. You can live there rent free. Don't worry about it, right? When they got to a certain point before they even had a product, their father said, hey, I want to write you a $250,000 check so you can fund and hire your first employees. Why do I say this? I think that if you are starting your own business and you're not coming from that type of background, which many of us are not, I certainly didn't, then you have to do a few things. First of all, you need to make sure that you can continue to pay your rent. And this may sound really basic, right? But you get very excited about the business. You say, hey, I'm going to go all in, et cetera. But we don't necessarily have the wherewithal to recover from those financial setbacks, right? If the business is not successful. And the truth is 70% of businesses fail. Now, that shouldn't discourage people from starting it. It's more of, we have to be more considered in how we do it. So I just want to put that out there. Now, in terms of the actual starting the business, some people will say, hey, you need a business plan. Some people will say, what I would say is, you need to make sure before you start before you take on debt, before you do any of these, things to start your business, that people are willing to buy your product. And there's a whole conversation, this is a totally separate conversation, but there's something called customer development. And customer development is all about understanding who your potential customers are before you actually make the product. Understanding who they are, what they're willing to pay, what they really want, because we as entrepreneurs tend to fall in love with our products. And but the truth is, it doesn't matter how much we love the product, it matters how much our customers love the product. So before you take out that loan, before you put money on your credit card, before you do any number of things, you need to actually ensure that there are customers out there who are willing to pay for your product and who are willing to pay you enough that you can start a viable business. There's more I can say, but I'm going to stop there and let the conversation continue.
Yeah, so this is truly my passion, because I'm the child of serial entrepreneurs. When I was born, my father was George Jefferson, and my mother was Wheezy. They look like George. My dad is short and, with a big mouth, and, my mom had Wheezy's hair, so it's like they were the Jeffersons. They owned 5 dry cleaning stores and a dry cleaning plant. But when I was 7, we took the cheesesteak and the hoagie to Little Rock, Arkansas, and then when I was 13, we owned the 100 block of Main Street of a little town called Darby, Pennsylvania. so, but they never like really, and I love the things that they did because, I would see my dad come up with the ideas and my mom would make the ideas make sense. And, back in the day, it was just like, it was a typewriter. There was no kind of like fancy research. So my mom was at the typewriter, like getting the little cartridges and putting stuff together. And then they would take it to the bank and my dad would, like put on his suit. He was from the old school where he would clean his shoes and put them right in front of the oven and then like put like the polish on them. It's like, so they were really like a team in doing this, but they weren't thinking about like, one, my dad would always, to Jason's point, he's like, okay, he's like, oh, I'm going to sell this. Or then he would take on too many items or too many ideas in the business. So I think that people, what they have to do is just, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to like start small and then, work to grow big and just start the next level, the next level, the next level. So it's like, okay, if you want to own a restaurant and you have no restaurant experience, then maybe you should start selling like the one dish that you are really good at, or finding like a medium to be good at something. And then see if you can turn that into an income, save that income, and then save it in the appropriate vehicles or something, where you can grow that. And then you can kind of grow your finances, one, and don't spend it. Don't spend it, because our folks like, man, it's like, okay. And I think we saw this over COVID, where people, they got their PPP loans and that turned into the BMW loan. And it's like, you just gotta like lay low and know that you have to delay gratification, so that's the thing. Just start small, delayed gratification, become good at like one thing, within the regard to your business, and then scale it, and had my father said, okay, well, I'm just going to be a dry cleaner. I mean, there were other extenuating circumstances, but like, and then later on in life, when I found out the one business that turned people on Main Street up until the 80s into multimillionaires was the dry cleaning business. Had we just stayed there, had he not like decided to open a restaurant, had he not like gone out and, like over expanded and, decided that he was going to like beat out like his mentors in the business. And had he not said, okay, when the mentors was like, hey, do you think you need to slow down? It was like, he's like, slow down. You're just trying to shut me down. Like you gotta be a little gracious as you're growing. And then, I might not be on this call with you today because I'd be like laying.
You'd be sitting up in that millionaire's.
I'd be in the Hamptons,
apartment in the sky.
In the sky.
That's right. In a deluxe apartment in the sky. I'd have moved on up.
Manuel, go ahead.
I want to say I think your father knew my father, but I'm gonna leave that.
It's a black man name.
Yes, of that.
It's in our
genre.
DNA.
So how do we be the men of all race and color of this moment? Manuel, speak to us.
No, I just wanted to say before the 2 points Jason and Lauren made is that I feel like the mindset of the entrepreneur needs to understand that your personal finances is going to be very, very, very important. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet, especially young African Americans, they think that it's going to be a separate bucket of money or a separate situation. It's not. So what you're doing with your personal credit is going to be critical as you take that journey and take that step toward entrepreneurship. And I think that that's key to knowing, just a baseline of knowing that, even if you don't know anything about balance, profit and loss, any of that, just know that your personal credit is critical. And a lot of people start and are like, oh, wait, what I did with my credit card, matters. I have this great business idea and I can't get funding. Nah, you can't. So I think they just need to start there.
Yeah, one of our other barbershops, we always talk about keeping it 700, you know, and we learned about keeping it 700. But I want to step back one step because I always hear that you have to have a business plan. Can somebody tell me what are some of the key things you need to understand or even be able to know in starting or wanting to put together a business plan? Because I hear a lot of people say, "Where's your business plan?" But I very rarely ever have heard anybody say, "Well, you need to have this, 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 this," which is a business plan. I just hear, "Where's your business plan?"
So I don't want to like dominate the conversation here, but like I have a few ideas about that because I did not have a business degree. And when I was, out of college and I thought about like I wanted to start a business, I would, get like people saying, well, you need a business plan. And so I would go to Barnes and Nobles, I would go to the library, I would go I see like some rudimentary software online and I would buy all this stuff and try to put together a business plan. And you know what? And it never worked out. But, so it's two things. Some people, they're doing it because they want to kill your idea or they want to see how great you are. And ultimately, yes, a business plan is for seeing how much research and how much time you put into it. But you, one, need to have a really clear idea. You need to have a one-pager, one paragraph, 30-second something of what your business is. Then you have to be able to explain how it's going to make money. And it's and like I said, for most people who are entrepreneurs, who want to start in communities of color, just start simple and just become because the most successful people I know, they really built their businesses just by getting that one linchpin piece, and they were so good at one thing, they learned how to monetize it. So once you get that, once you can define that master, what you're going to do, and then you look at how you can make money, then you should think about well, how can you scale this? So get it established and then think about scaling it. We're thinking about this was my dad's thing. He was like, yeah, we're going to have, 50 million cheesesteak shops over, and it's okay, Dad, and I mentioned that we owned an entire block because he got this block and and he killed us because he was he wanted to put he wanted to control a business in the whole block. We're like, Dad, hold on, just rent those 3 stores to Domino's Pizza. I'm like, we'd be rich today, just rent those stores to Domino's Pizza, and then we'll just hold our store down here. Now, this is a true but kind of unsubstantiated story. So I used to work in the record business, and I had an office on 7th Avenue. And I worked for a company, I won't mention the company's name, but it was every building on 7th Avenue was huge. And so there was this huge building, and in the first floor of the building, there was a shoe repair place, kind of like a stand, really. And then I was like, how does this guy maintain the stand? And they were like, you do know that guy owns this building, right? I was like, all right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's one guy, and I don't know how he got the building or whatever, but the dude owned a shoe repair store, on 7th Avenue, but it's just amazing. And these people, so they start small, They build stuff, and the good thing about New York is you find these people who are like cab drivers. I'm a cab driver, and then all of a sudden, you find out this person owns, like a ton of stuff in Manhattan, because people come from all places around the world and get their hustle on and drive a cab for 23 and a half hours a day till they save up their money. And then, they put it towards something else, or they invest wisely. I don't know what they do, but, or each individual person, does. But like I said, I think it's, if you're talking about just neighborhood entrepreneurs, micro businesses, we need to start small. And then, credit is an important thing, but credit is aligned with borrowing money. And so it's like, you got to be careful, because, the cost of money, that starts getting complicated, and, then,
let's jump over
I'll
to
let somebody else jump.
We'll talk about credit, but Dwayne, and I think Ed want to jump in here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey guys,
thanks.
And I just want to add some value to the great points that have already been stated. But opening my business 4 years ago, I found that networking was actually one of the biggest strengths that you need to have, especially when opening a business. Through the use of networking, I was able to attain credit, right? Knowing the right people to ask questions and how to go about getting, doing a business plan, or obtaining a business credit card, or even, in terms of even partnerships, right? So even with my business, I have two partners, and again, having the right team really helps when it comes to networking. Not saying that liquidity and all of those other great points that don't matter, but from my experience, I found that the networking was a huge, huge piece as it related to my success. Now, segueing to the business plan, what I tell people, especially when I started the restaurant, I literally asked myself, I never did a business plan before, but I said to myself, well, what would someone want to know in order to invest in this idea? And so I said, okay, well, if I'm a businessman, I want to know, how much money am I going to make, right? What are the projections? And so, part of those projections, you have to know your income. Projected income, but then you also take a look at your projected costs. And then you can kind of see exactly what type of net income and basically what's in it for your investors. And that's a huge part of a business plan. If I showed you my business plan, again, I think I did it on Excel. I did it probably like within a half an hour. And to this day, I laugh at it because it was just quickly put together. But, it's something that I treasure to today. In that, again, it was able to help propel the business starting, being able to come to my partners and say, hey guys, look, I have this great idea. This is what I think it can do. These are the numbers. This is what I'm basing my thoughts on. So that's what I want to contribute as it related to those two questions you asked earlier.
Ed, you're up next.
Thanks. I think you got the wrong agency tonight, but I gotta plug my friends at Small Business Services. Speaking of business plans, I've been working with them closely, and I know for a fact that this is something that they offer, and this is a service that the city offers for free. These are free classes, so anyone that is interested, check out Small Business Services. Just beyond starting a business plan, I think just looking through the website, just applying for grants and loans, financing your small businesses, different courses, a lot of resources that are available that this agency has to offer. I'm happy to talk about my agency a little bit later and some of the resources that we're offering entrepreneurs. But since we're talking about business plans, got to check out SBS.
Ed, do you have the website SBS or just SBS online, or So hopefully we can try to archive this or put it into the chat. So
Yeah, I
people
think
can
if
get
you
it.
do nyc.gov/SBS,
Okay.
that would take you there. But if you have particular sections of the website now or later, Ed, that you want to suggest, we can add those to the resources. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we have a friendly relationship with SBS. We'll try to get them at a future barbershop. But you're definitely supposed to be here, Ed. You just raised that point. You're definitely supposed to be here.
Kofi, you up next?
Thank you. So very, very important points for all the speakers. Two areas that I want to add, as I stated earlier on, I'm a senior business consultant with JP Morgan Chase, and basically what I do is to mentor minority small business. So most of the things said are something that I do for a living almost every day. And one thing that is very, very important, I'm very, very glad that it was mentioned, is personal credit. I personally treat personal credit as money. It is extremely important that if you want to be an entrepreneur, a very successful one, it's okay to start small. I agree with everyone. It is also extremely important that you pay attention to your personal credit. You got to pay attention to your personal credit. You build it. And once you build it, the second thing that I strongly agree with the speakers also is establishing or getting a business credit card. I am in the camp where I believe it is extremely important as a starting entrepreneur to get a business credit card once you have established the personal credit. It does two things. One, it streamlines your cash flow when things are tight. And number two, it actually also builds your business credit. So I know, I understand it's borrowing, but I believe though, if you want to be a very successful entrepreneur, I honestly believe you have to establish your personal credit and use the personal credit to build your business credit, to streamline your cash flow, one, and two, to build your business credit. If the credit is not there yet for you to get a business credit, I would strongly encourage, try secure credit card, secure business credit card to get a business credit going.
Wayne, you want to respond to that?
Oh, just to add a great piece, Kofi. I wanted to kind of go back to Mr. Hammond and his story. My parents had a business and I actually helped manage it for 4 years. And so I'm very familiar with some of the challenges. And one of the things that I want to say is that if you are thinking about starting a business, you have a business, you have to dare to be brave. They say fortune favors the brave, and be brave enough to get advice outside of your circle. Oftentimes, I find people, too many people are dream killers, but there are lots of other people who will support your dreams. And then finally, I want to say is you have to speak to experts. Too often in our communities, well, Black or Latino, we want to figure it out ourselves. Someone even mentioned going to the library. There are lots of experts. Ed talked about it. He shared a link. I shared the New York Public Library. There's so many complementary resources that are available to us if we would just get out of our comfort zone and listen to experts and not the naysayers. So I just wanted to add that.
I want to build off of that just a little bit. As I'm listening to Lauren a moment ago and what Dwayne was saying and what you just said, there's two things that are coming through for me. One is who you go into business with is important too, right? But before I get that, I want to touch on the business plan thing, because I'm thinking back, and some of the staff know this, some of the folks don't know this. I worked in the private sector and the non-for-profit sector and the philanthropic sector before I came to government. And one of the things I did in the private sector, and this is actually how I know Lauren, I worked in the music industry too. So there was a time when I started a artist management company. And the two things about that is, one, I did find it helpful to have a business plan because it was helpful to be able to articulate in writing, as well as to be able to verbalize what was the point of the company, what kind of artist, what was the niche, blah, 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 right? So I did find it useful. And I'm glad that Ed mentioned how much easier it can be now that you work with small business services. I was not really aware of that at that time. Although at one point, Small Business Administration had SCORE. I don't know if they still have this, but that whole service corps of retired employees and people who had been in business. Now, I couldn't find anybody who had done arts management, but at least I found someone who'd been in business that was able to do a little coaching with these are the kind of things that you need to organize your thoughts, put those things in writing. But the other piece, and I want to hear what other people have to say about it, is at one point in time, my encouragement to get my business plan together was my father. And my father did a lot of international consulting work, but his area was more ecotourism and land development. He didn't really actually know anything about the entertainment industry. So I like what Dwayne was saying about the power of networking, because you really have to talk to people who are in a position to help you grow your business in order to grow your business. And so I would like to hear from other folks about how you grow your business, how you avoid the dream killers, as you just said, Wayne, and also how you avoid the time wasters. You know, people who want to steal your idea. A lot of people have a great idea. I remember one of my frat brothers was talking about, you know, now you can find these rangers. You go play golf, you can find that thing and show you where your ball was. He's like, oh, I thought of that. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people thought about it before somebody actually built it. You know, now it exists, right? So how do you get out of this inertia of holding on to a good idea, not doing anything about it? And how do you unleash your idea and put it in action with other people?
Listen, you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah, so Mike, I want to add something to that before people start to answer that question specifically. And I want people to not underestimate the power of credit as a wealth building tool. So there are ways that you can leverage your credit, especially as a business owner, as Kofi was saying, to help you float your business in times when it's tight, and also to grow your business, because the more capital you have access to, even if it's debt, will help you scale and grow that business if you have a solid plan in place. So that is, but it comes from very deliberate use of credit, and also responsible use of credit, and knowing how to leverage credit in a very unique way. So that means using your personal credit to help establish your business credit, using your business credit to help your business scale and grow, knowing how to keep your personal and business finances as separate as you can, and being able to demonstrate to a bank why you're a good credit risk because of the way you've kept your personal finances as well.
Shakima?
That is so true, Lilias. And just to add on, just thinking about credit, to Kofi's point that he made earlier, treat personal credit as money. When we look at the statistics in America, we see that 41% of Americans, they have a credit score below 700. And Scott, you said that keeping it 700 plus, right? Keeping it 100, you got to keep it 700 plus. And that is so important when you're thinking about your business, because again, we cannot re-emphasize the thing about you're thinking about your business, but it starts with you. So it starts with your personal credit, knowing what is your credit, what is credit, and what are the components of credit. Sometimes we don't even know what makes up our credit and why it's important. I always give the example, I'm an immigrant coming to this country, and I came on a scholarship for college. My fourth year, I was given a credit card. I was struggling. Yes, 3 jobs, struggling. Your girl was off the books, and the struggle was real. I got this credit card for $100. You know, I was so happy. I maxed that card out, not having any understanding about credit. When I got to that point, wanting to have an apartment, they asked me, so what's your credit score? I said, credit who? Who's that? That's a person? Didn't know anything about it. But later on, thinking about, you know, I got the information, was able to build my credit, and recognizing that credit is gold. You know, when they say credit is king, well, it's truly king, queen, her auntie, and her uncles. Everything for you to get started when we're thinking about building our business. So I just want to re-emphasize that understanding what is credit, what makes it up. We also have, and as we talk about that, thinking about how you can get your credit score. And with Chase, we have a free credit journey. It's available to anyone, where you have full access to get to look at your credit if you're thinking about your business. Take a look, take a check, a credit check, your credit report, so you'll know where you stand as you think about developing or expanding your business.
Shakima, you made me think about when you talk about that, because my mom always tells me I'm crazy because I always have at least one credit card that owes me money. Okay. And they always send me a check and I send it back to them. So there's always one credit card I have that always owes me money.
You better cash that check. Stop playing.
No. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my OCD or whatever it may be. I always want to have at least somebody owing me money.
Lilius, you want him to put in some interest bearing something or
That's
other. Is
right.
that it? Yeah, that's what
I
I
was
was
invest
thinking, right?
that money.
That's what I was going to ask.
Time.
No, that's what my question was going, is what are the best ways of doing it? Because, and I know there's a lot of bankers on here. You put in the bank, you get 0.5%, So where can you start investing your money and say, hey, listen, and I think Mike has heard me talk about this before several times. And I always got, we get a lot of guys in the shop, barbershop, or friends I have. And I've asked quite a few of my friends, I said, hey man, could you get $5,000 today and lose it and it would not affect your life? I got a bunch of guys, oh man, yeah, that's nothing for my account. I could easily lose $5,000 today and it would not affect my life at all. So I said, well, what if we all took that 5,000 and put it together? If 10 of us took 5,000 and we had 50,000, how can we invest that 50,000 together? Is there a place or way of networking and doing that type of stuff where small community groups or small community want-to-be bankers could take their funds and pool them together? And once again, and then also turn it over and say, hey, listen, we want to help invest in new businesses, small markets, new entrepreneurs coming up, young investors, young sharks. Is that something that Chase or other places, does it even exist anywhere? I know it exists on the big boy level, but at the $5,000 level.
It's getting the group of people together. When I was 20 years old, way before my time in terms of money, I got 20 of my friends together and said, let's put together $200 a month. And let's put it together and buy a Subway restaurant, because this is when Subways were like dirt cheap. They were like $20,000 to start one. And I got 20 of my, and this is actually right before I started teaching like financial literacy. And my friends thought I was crazy, like $200 a month. No, I'm going out this weekend. I got plans for that money. And I was just so before my time. Nobody I knew was interested in doing collective economics, because that's what that is. It's collective economics, and you can do it for anything. It doesn't have to be for starting a business. Some people do it for saving. Some people do it for making sure they don't touch their money. In the Caribbean, we call it a susu. We put our money together so that we can save and not touch our money. Now, if we did the same thing and took the money collected and invested it, that's when you'd be cooking with gas. But it's about the mindset first, right? You have to get the group of people. Someone said it earlier about getting the right circle. It's getting the group of people that are willing to talk about the same things you want to talk about, and then are willing to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to making these types of moves. You can do it, but it takes a very specific group. And then when you do it, figuring out who is going to be the gatekeeper of those funds, making sure that they're an honest person, making sure that you actually organize this to become now an actual legitimate business, so that you can have records and profit and loss statements, and you can present it to a bank, because you're literally coming with your own collateral if you put your money together. That's where the whole concept of micro investing comes from. Micro investing and peer-to-peer lending is exactly what you're talking about. It's taking your money, putting it together with a group of other people, and then you yield the benefits of that collective just move together, that collective investment.
Ed, you want to jump in on that?
I'll speak to credit really quickly. Just from my perspective, we help a lot of folks that deal with payday loans, and there are a lot of scams. So in New York, payday loans are just high interest loans that are illegal in New York State, and you borrowed against your next paycheck, but that's just something that we want people to be aware of. This is just not advised. And as far as some of these scams, and we will also, as our agency, one of our free tax prep services that we do for low income New Yorkers. So we for individuals that are filing their taxes. Anyone that's making $50,000 or less can file for free using our services with our providers. And families, that limit was $72,000. So with our service providers like Felix at Arriva, we have locations all throughout the city. And I would be remiss not to talk about the mayor's economic blueprint. Recovery blueprint. So next year, our agency is looking to expand these services beyond individuals and families, and we're looking to expand this towards providing free tax prep to small businesses, freelance workers, gig workers, entrepreneurs. So a lot of the folks that we've been talking about, this community, this is something that we hope to help as well, with their annual filing or their quarterly estimate tax filings, and providing workshops on one-on-one consultation on their record keeping and through our financial empowerment centers. So this is a service that the city looks to provide, and we're looking to expand that. And lastly, just on scams, we've been seeing also a lot of just tax refund advances that we want to warn folks about too, as far as their professional tax preparers that help you get your refund faster. But again, this is just a loan that you're getting. It's not really a refund. So if the IRS disagrees with your refund amount, it's going to be a loan, and you're going to have to repay that loan at a higher interest as well. So that's just something that we want to share to the folks that are listening.
Felix, you want to jump in there? You've been quiet down there, Felix. Come on in there. Come on, get a shape up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just listening and kind of like getting this, because this business conversation I'm not too used to. This is what I do. It's more personal finances, and I was like interested about the conversation about credit, and also wanted to mention how important it is to talk about savings and building your savings in order to have some money, some cushion when you start thinking about building a business. So that's basically what I do with my clients when they mention that they want to start a business. Just focus on the savings and budgeting and credit and improving credit, building credit. So just wanted to kind of mention that, yes, credit is very important, but I think it is also important for people to learn about savings and have savings for this business they're thinking of opening in the future.
Now, Felix, I'm coming back to you, Felix. I'm not letting you off the hook that easy. Now, I've always heard that thing when you get your paycheck, you pay yourself first and you pay all your bills. Listen, I live in New York. Before my check gets to me, everybody else took it. So as a New Yorker, and listen, I'm a young person coming out. I'm just getting out of college, getting in there. I want to have my apartment. The average apartment in New York, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 easy, and that's just like a little matchbox you're living in. How do I start saving money from there? I don't have any money. My first job, I might be making, and if I'm really lucky, I might be making about $30,000, $40,000, and I'm still considered somewhat poverty in New York at $40,000. Living. So how do I save money in trying to survive and get my start on?
I see Kofi, Dwayne.
Yes,
want to jump in?
Sorry.
I was gonna let Felix start.
Let Felix go and then I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I was just basically, I understand New York City is very expensive and we struggle with rent. But in order for you to start working on savings, you need to start working on budgeting and tracking your you're spending and being adamant about budgeting, because a lot of us, we just, pay rent and bills, but we have some money left and we don't actually save it. We go out on a Friday night, Saturday night, the weekend, we spend 200, 300 when we could be saving that money, but we don't. And it's good at this program. I think it's good for younger people. For everybody, but as soon as you get educated on managing your finances, you will be better at it once you're like older and wanting to like plan your like future, like purchasing a home, like opening a business. So if you start educating yourself at a young age, you'll be able to manage your finances. You'll be able to work on budgeting accordingly in order to start like building savings, in order to not get into credit card debt, because you'll be able to manage the usage of credit cards and use it for things that you already have on your like budget, rather than just use it to buy a TV that you couldn't afford if you didn't have the credit card.
Kofi, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, very, very good point, though. Savings is very, very important. And it brings to mind another important aspect of entrepreneurship, something most of us call it cash flow management. I had a client that I mentor from New Jersey, and she said to me that she knows she makes a lot of money, but at the end of the year, for some reason, she has some dwarfs, that's what she called it, in the house that he doesn't seem to see where the money goes, right? It's all boiled down to what we are doing with that wonderful lady is having a separate account where, putting something at the end of every month in there, as my brother just said. You understand the money that comes in. The way I defined cash flow is holistically money that comes into the business. We want to maximize it. The money that's going out of the business, we want to minimize it. And the money that stays in the business, we want to optimize it. One important thing that we do, though, is as an entrepreneur, you have to try as much as possible to know your monthly income coming in and the expenses that bring the income. Right? It is very, very important that you know your numbers at your fingertips so that you can manage it effectively. I'm going to go back to one of the things that one of the speakers said. I think one of the first items concerning business plan. I am the camp that I believe having a business plan as an entrepreneur is very important. I'm not talking about business plan, those ones that we did during our MBAs. No, 1 sheet, 2 sheet, good to go, right? You have to know, for instance, your marketing plans, right? The fact that your friend opened a restaurant and makes $500,000 doesn't necessarily mean you can do the same thing, also make $500,000. I think it's very important that you do your competitive analysis, for instance, you do your marketing plans, you do your projections to see exactly if you can also make the money that you think you need. So I am of the view that business plan is very, very important. Over.
Dwayne, you're up next.
Just to add something different to the conversation, I would say a great way of having great credit is to set tangible goals. A lot of times our activities and how we approach life is based on our vision in terms of what that we actually want. And I think if we focus on, well, you know what, I want to get this house, and we work our way backwards. Whereas, okay, well, in order for me to get this house, I need to, have this credit score. And then you kind of work your way backwards, which kind of plays right back into having certain saving goals. So in terms of saving and having discretionary income, it's only 2 ways. Either you make more money or you reduce your expenses. So to piggyback off of the budgeting idea, one of the metrics that I like to use for my clients for single income households, you generally want to have about 6 months of living expenses, 6 to 8 months. Due to COVID, I've kind of been a little bit more cautious with my clients, and I like them to have about 8 to 12 months. But again, having adequate savings can help you to avoid certain credit pitfalls, such as maybe cash advance loans, right? Where you're taking out money at high interest rates on your credit cards and putting yourself in situations where now that money is or interest is getting out of control and your balances are continuing to grow, which can in turn reduce your credit score. So, I credit for me also on the business end of things. Again, to kind of talk about the cash flow management Kofi spoke about, he's so right. I mean, as a business owner, rather, you're in go mode and you're just going. You got a million and one things coming at you at the same time, and you're just going. But what I found was that when I was able to really make a difference in my business finances was to take advantage of some of those cash flow management services and really have detailed conversations with my accountants and just really try to understand, my balance sheet and where and in my cash flow sheet to see where the money was going, because then you can make tactical movements, some of which, may be more wants than needs, and you can start to reduce those wants, focus on your needs, and then you can begin to set those, achieve those saving goals. So I found that to be a huge thing for me with my business.
Danielle?
2 points I want to add. One is on the paying yourself first. No exceptions. You got to pay yourself first, pay yourself first, pay yourself first, pay yourself first. I don't care if it's $1. I don't care if it's 50 cents. You have to create the mindset and the habit of paying yourself first, or you'll never do it. Con Ed, Optimum, Xfinity, your car pay, none of them are going to help you send you money back when you have an emergency. So you got to work out your budget to do that. But at the end of the day, you have to pay yourself first. If we don't start building the habit, we won't have it, and it'll continue to be cyclical. So we got to do it. It's something that us as African Americans, Black and brown people, that we don't learn early. We're so used to hearing the rat race and running to pay bills that we don't have that stash for ourselves. It's necessary. It's non-negotiable for me when I speak to people, even if it's 50 cents, and I'm really being serious, because you're creating the habit. And once you create the habit, it'll start to increase. So that's on paying yourself first. You guys know my position. Pay yourself first. It's a wealth principle. It's not a game. You got to do it. And the second thing, we talked about, I think Dwayne mentioned reducing your expenses or making more money. I will add another tip that I talk to clients about is, in our Mochify community about, is using your resources. So the .govs have a bunch of resources, and oftentimes we don't leverage them. We don't leverage food stamps. We don't, even if you got to get on Snap for a minute, that's what it's called in New York, get on Snap for a minute, because that's going to allow you to save that $50, especially if you're a student, you're just graduating, you could apply for Snap. Like that, you might be good with that. Right. And so like if your household is eating meat and you eat a vegetarian lifestyle, that's a separate food and you're not sharing food. There's all types of resources. So please, the nonprofits and the .govs can help you with that. And we have to get a little more creative when it comes to budgeting, because at the end of the day, it's tight. And so we don't have it. A lot of people don't have it. They just don't have more money and they can't get a job. So you have to leverage your resources. So that would be my 2 takeaways on those 2 points.
All right, Lewis.
Yeah, so food pantries. Felix, I agree with that one. So I'm born and raised in New York City and have plenty of experience knowing what it's like living in New York, affording to live in New York. My target audience is predominantly women. They can be single or married, doesn't necessarily matter, but I teach them how to save up to $1,000 a month, regardless of their income. And the reason why I do that and why I started it is because money and your mindset about money matter more than how much money you actually have. This is something that I did for myself, and this is why I started teaching it to others. When I decided I wanted to leave my job in 2015, and knew I wanted to go into financial coaching full time, I started 2 years before that saving $1,000 a month. But it required me to take some serious wholesale changes of my New York City lifestyle. I had to park up my car and realize the mass transit really is the best transportation in the world, right? I had to make a legitimate decision moving from a really nice apartment that I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. I'm living the New York City cosmopolitan lifestyle in Manhattan and Chelsea at 20 some odd years old, and moved into an apartment above my in-laws, right? Like, these are the types of wholesale changes. Now, what I did was I was able to actually free up $2,000 a month in my budget and save $2,000 a month for almost 3 years. So it can be done. It's just the sacrifice people are willing to make. Are you willing to delay gratification? Are you willing to live in your childhood bedroom until you stack up enough money so you can have that 6 to 8 months of living expenses? For me, I did it because I wanted to go into my business full time. And I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take me to turn a significant profit. I teach people how to save their money for a living. Like, it's not like I can charge them a bajillion dollars. But I was committed to making the wholesale changes in my lifestyle. So paying myself first was paramount. That is the number one. That money had to go before anyone else touched it. Now, Scott, I know you talked about taxes. Yeah, listen, you got to pay the IRS. Do not play with the IRS, okay? Pay those guys their money. But as soon as they're done, you take your cut. And then you figure out how to live on the rest. And people can figure out how to live on less. They're usually just not willing to sacrifice to do it. It really requires a wholesale change. And that's why mindset, I'm going to keep coming back to mindset when it comes to money. Your money, it's in your mind before it ever becomes in your bank account. If you can't tackle the way you think about money, the way you use money, the way what you want money to do for you, one of the things I teach in my course is money is a tool, and you use it to buy either options or opportunities. So every time you swipe that card, you need to ask yourself, is this an option? My background is accounting and economics. So I'm thinking about opportunity costs. Is this a sunk cost? Is this something that I'm not going to recoup in any way, shape, or form? Or is this an opportunity that I can then build upon for something else? Is it going to get me closer to another goal I'm going to have? Affording to live in New York City now after COVID is hard. Right now, I just read an article earlier this week that says Manhattan now has their back. So during COVID, rents went down and they were practically begging people to come, but there is now a $5,000 a month average if you want to live in Manhattan. $5,000. Well, you get 16 of your friends and y'all can live there. It really has to be that simple. Everybody wants to have this independent lifestyle, but maybe you need to wait a little while to do that. It's okay to have roommates. You can be 25 with roommates. You can be 30 with roommates. I have clients who are homeowners who I am advising them to rent out empty bedrooms in their house because they really can't afford all the things that they have going on. So why not make an income stream out of an asset you already have? Don't make your home be a burden to you. Make it work for you financially. So that's what I would contribute.
I think one thing I'm really struck by real quick from when you say that is, let's consider that other people are advancing their businesses when they're selling these dominant narratives about how we're all supposed to be spending our money. It's not an accident. You know what I mean? Other people are following their business plan. So if we adopt the same attitude, because I was thinking about that, the word delayed gratification has been said at least 3-4 times tonight. And I think it came up a couple of times last summer when we were talking about this subject broadly. And it can sound really far away and like a lot of abstraction. What do you mean? What do you mean? But when you get down to the brass tacks of it, what's funny, like you surprised yourself trying to save $1,000 a month. You ended up saving 2,000 a month because you started chipping away at stuff. And people have talked, I think we talked about this once in the barbershop, like that latte factor. If you go in the morning and you spend $4.50 on a latte, skip that. Maybe they have a plain coffee in your office or something else you could do, or you bring something in from home. Like little things can make a difference. So if we're not yet ready to do $2,000 a month and it sounds too pie in the sky or whatever, think about things that you can do. Because even something like that, if you cut $4.50 a day, $4, let's keep the math straight, $4 a day times 5 days of business week, that's $20 a week right there. Times 4 weeks, that's $80 a month, right? I mean, that's a start just based on I could drink water in the morning when I start. Like it doesn't have to start off at $2,000,
But I'm going to flip that for you, Mike, because sometimes when you start with the chipping at the minor things, you get discouraged from ever going to the larger things. And there are people who really cannot live without that $4 coffee. So when I'm helping people do their budgets, I'm telling you, well, what are the things that really, really matter to you? Like if I take this away from you, you are going to walk away from this table and not talk to me anymore about your budget savings because you're like, this is too hard. And I give them a box for that. So for me, budgeting looks like this. 50%, no more than 15% of your money can go to your fixed expenses. No more. That's it. If your living expenses cost more than 50% of your income, you got to make a wholesale change. End of story, right? If you're going to work with me. 30% of your budget needs to be savings and debt. Why so high? Because a lot of people are heavy loaded with debt. But what I want you to do is as you get rid of debt, don't even think about spending that money anywhere else. It's now savings. And that's no one is going to make it in retirement only saving 10% of their money. You have to save 20% or more. I read an article today that said 38% of your money is how much you need to save to become like a millionaire within 30 years. You got to save 30% of your money if you're starting in your 30s or your 40s. Then that last 20% of that budget, you can use it for whatever you want. I don't care. I don't care if you buy a latte 4 times a day. When you get to that 20%, you are finished. That's it. And it gives people the flexibility to still feel like they can have a life, but also accomplish the goals that they're looking at. And in that savings and debt, that also includes investing. You're investing if you have to make investing post-tax. If you've got pre-tax, don't worry about it. But it has to have some sort of flexibility or people won't commit to it. Even when I was saving $2,000 a month, I had $500 a month reserved for myself just to spend on whatever I want. Why? Because I reduced my housing expenses to 15% of my budget because I moved into the apartment at my in-laws' house. So that's how you're able to do it. You move money from one area to the next to make it work for you. We can't sit there. Too many people say, I want to accomplish this, but I don't want to let go of this. You have to understand trade-offs. What trade-offs are you willing to make? And some trade-offs are harder than others. You would be surprised how hard it is for people to give up that $4 coffee than it is for them to rent out that empty bedroom in the back. So, and that then is now bringing you income instead of you having to take something out of your budget.
I just want to jump in here. I got to jump in and say, Lilius, that was fire. And I really hope that was fire. And if the audience is listening, she just gave you a blueprint to your financial freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love it. And I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
And Dwayne, can I just add one thing? That don't mean that you're living in your mama's house, not helping pay rent. For those who are living in your mama's house at 25, 30 years old, still living in your mama's house, and would say, I'm living in my mama's house, trying to make wealth. Give us some rent.
Don't let me call out some family members now, Scott. Don't let me call out some family.
And you know what? Just to,
a good point, though. That is wonderful, wonderfully for that. I want to come back to entrepreneurs. I want to come back to some of the points again that were just said. I want to move from the theory a little bit to practice. one thing that I have found with this minority entrepreneur program, and by the way, I will encourage our listeners to check out Chase Minority Entrepreneurs. We have a lot of resources, especially for startup businesses. I will encourage you to take a look, Chase Minority Entrepreneur, if you can Google it. But I just want to talk a little bit about minority entrepreneur business owners who have established his or her credit, doing a little bit better than wanting to go to a traditional bank, whether JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, TD Bank, it doesn't matter, and trying to apply for, let's say, a line of credit or let's say a loan. Now, most often than not, what I have realized is that some of our brothers and sisters who own business, for some strange reason, have been advised that, you know, they're making $500,000 a year, $250,000 a year gross revenue, or $1 million gross revenue. And for some strange reason, sometimes they do not show a profit. They are actually being advised not to show profit. What that does is that most traditional banks, at least in this country, are cash flow lenders, which means that one of the primary things that they look for in order to make a credit decision is your profit that you show on your business tax returns. It is not necessarily about your liquidity in your bank account, not necessarily about your collateral, not necessarily about leverage, but significant number of traditional banks would depend or look at your profit that you show on your business tax returns and your financial statement that you submit to the financial institution. That is what they depend on to give you credit. So for instance, I had a client, very, very wonderful African-American, make $950,000 a year, showing credit, profit of $4,000, then trying to apply for a line of credit of $150,000. Now, number one, if you Google monthly loan payment of $150,000 line of credit, you will see that your monthly payment for $150,000, for instance, line of credit will be about $3,000, right? Roughly, just roughly, about $3,000 a month. Now, so if you show your profit as $4,000 for a gross revenue of almost $1 million, what's effectively you are telling the financial institution that you can only afford to repay the loan for only 1 month. That's basically what you're telling the financial institution. So you actually telling the lender not to lend you the money. Of course, there are other things added to it. I'm being simplistic here, but effectively, most traditional banks are cash flow lenders, and they primarily depend on the profit that you show on your business tax returns. So what I'm suggesting that it is extremely important as a business owner to sit down with your CPA or your accountant when you file your taxes, and actually periodically to discuss things like, your gross revenue, the expenses, what you show on your profit, whatever have you. Whatever you show is up to you. I'm not suggesting any amount of number to show on your profit. What I'm saying is that significant number of traditional banks in this country depends on the profit that you show on your tax returns in order to A, to make a loan decision, and B, how much to offer you. I also will add, yes, I know the more taxes, the more profit you show on your business tax returns, the more taxes you pay. I got it. But then you have to make a decision whether you want a loan or credit to grow the business or the other way around. Thank you.
That was a lot.
It's some good stuff.
Good advice, though. Good advice.
Good stuff. Just having people
Sound advice.
lay the foundation, right?
I don't know. We haven't talked about that. I want to talk about how family members and parents really discuss money matters as a family. And 'cause I know that was one of the things we said we were, and how they communicate with one another about their financial goals. Because I think this is something that gets in our way, or we allow to get in our way, because we're not comfortable with conversations and we're not comfortable sharing our goals. And then having really, I think, valuable, constructive conversations of how we get to the financial place we want to get to as a family or as a couple or as an individual, as friends. I know you threw some things out there with your investing club, Scott, but the discussion has to be had.
So wait, I was going to ask you this, two things now.
Uh-oh.
Now, well, where's my wife? Let me, okay. First, I got you.
Careful now.
Okay, so just joking. So I've heard in one way of with your family that you should always bring your kids to the table, sit them down, and let them see the finances and the problems and the bills of the house, and let them be in part of paying the household bills. Is that a good way of trying to teach kids the economics of the family?
Yes, if done well. You know, I listened to my colleague Lilius and how she has her conversation. If done in a way in how she presents it, in other words, we're being constructive, we're being supportive, and we're guiding the child through and helping them understand the why, then yes. It can't be like this is how you do it, it's my way or the highway. And another suggestion is young folks have great ideas. There's nothing wrong with a parent saying to a child, what do you think? How do we handle this? And help them to brainstorm how the family navigates a financial situation. Now, I'm not saying take their advice, because they say, Dad, let's spend $100 on Haagen-Dazs. You know, that's my son might go, he thinks that's a great investment. But we should really ask for their opinion. And then the other thing that I really want to bring up is the family history. You know, when someone mentioned generational wealth, we really have to talk about how did we get to where we are and how are we going to go to where we want to be. And sometimes that's talking about grandma or uncle, the ones who, and Mr. Hammond talked about his parents, and I appreciated him sharing that, talking about successes, failures, and how do we navigate now, giving them a sense of where we came from so we can know where we're going.
So how we do that? Because I've talked to some young people, and a lot of times people say, well, your generation, talk about mine, just me, you always giving us everything. We really didn't have to work hard for nothing. You gave us the Nikes, you gave us the Game Boys, you gave us these things, and now you're asking me to be responsible. But you always gave it to me.
Right.
That's a lot of head shaking.
Work. You have to make them work for it.
Yeah. Well, I find that very interesting when the child says you enabled me to be bad with it. Because what I heard is you enabled your child to be bad with money, right? And now your child is putting the blame back on the parent because they've had this entitled lifestyle and they don't want to do what Lilius was talking about, which is make good money choices with the money that they're now earning. And so it's your fault. So,
I was at a men's retreat and I did this with some young men, and young men said, but everybody's always just giving it to me. Yeah. And they didn't really have a concept that I should have to work hard for, or as I think somebody said, delayed gratification for it. Because a lot of I don't know what generation it is, like X, Y, Z, 12, whatever. But they've said, they are used to just asking and waiting, and then it appears. So it was, to me, the way they said it very humbly, not disrespectfully.
Right.
They were saying, but this is how it's been rolling.
It's a valid point, but it goes back to my initial point, which is the conversation. Someone, and I believe it was Mike, that talked about his daughter getting a debit card, and and I thought it was such a wonderful discussion that Mike said he was having with his daughter about what led, before she even got the debit card, he had a conversation about the responsibility of a debit card. And then, what I thought was really insightful is that his daughter said, wait a minute, I'm not ready for that yet. Which to me shows that she has a certain level of, maturity to say that. Because most kids would have listened, said, yada, 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 Dad, give me the debit card, right? So she actually listened to her dad and was like, I'm going to delay that debit card until I feel I'm ready. And so I think those conversations that Mike talked about at the beginning of our call as a type of constructive conversations we should be having with our children to prevent what those young people shared with you on how they felt that they were given stuff without the instruction of how did I get this? Why are you receiving this? And what do you need to do to get more of this?
So panelists, and this is for all the panelists. I got that. If you're middle class parents and you have some understanding, but now we have some NYCHA folks, okay, that are here and listen. I wear my wealth because that makes me feel good. How do I get around that to say you don't have to wear your wealth? And you know the saying, you find the flyest cars in the projects than in most middle class communities. But how do we help that generation? And I'm really serious about that because this is the population that we're really, really trying to work with. That's the population that we're really trying to get over the fence because they wear their wealth. They don't accumulate their wealth. And as we know, as anybody who's ever bought a car, if you go around the block and try to bring that car back, it's $10,000 less already than you went around the block. You're like, wait a minute, I only can put 2 miles on it. So how do we help? That's the group I really want to help out in this conversation. Those who can hopefully see their way over the fence, over that red line, so they can start going further down the path. They can really fly.
It's about reality. I'm gonna let someone else, but it's about reality. So when you talk about NYCHA customers, I think they have to realize that those purchases, what you're wearing, does not bring you joy. The fact that they're having a conversation with someone like you, Scott, about how they can change their life, mean that those purchases and those decisions that they made didn't give them the happiness and put them in the place where they wanted. So how do we make different decisions going forward that will enable you, as Lilia said, to reach your financial goals?
And Scott, it just goes about, again, to mindset, to Lilia's. You hit the hammer on the nail. Where you change mindset, you change your thoughts and you change your actions. But when you're talking about different populations, you want to differentiate. Are you a consumer or producer? Who are you making rich? I always start off the conversation. I had a group of young people and I said, we were talking about Yeezy. And I said, oh, I don't own a Yeezy. What is that, right? And they said, well, I need to look fly and all these things. I said, but who's getting rich, right? And then they said, who's getting rich? Is it Jay-Z or who's the other person?
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
Kanye West, right? So the mindset is changing that mindset to come to terms, to bringing it down where they are at and showing them who are you making rich, and do you not want to be rich, to become rich? And this is how you do it. And the thing is small changes make big differences. So you could start with just $1 a day, or let's think about the coins that you get from your change. Let's start to save that. And within the year, let's count that up. And that's a small win. To Lilia's point, with maybe you don't want to take away the coffee or the latte or whatever it is, but think about, okay, those 50-cent coin pieces that you have, let's save that. It's all about mindset. And you know what? The other part of it is the psychology of money. Because we talk about all this, and yes, if I'm comfortable with wearing the brand names and whatever, it's hard for me to change. But to the point, you just show me small change, that 50 cents at the end of the week. If I'm able to have $5, what can you do with that $5? 3 things you could do with your savings. Emergency fund, you could invest with it, or make a big purchase to buy a house, a business, or goal, or whatever it is. So it's changing mindset, and it comes through education and conversation, small conversations.
I want to add also, and this is just a personal experience of mine, but my one of the things that my father did for me was when I had my little summer jobs and internships, he opened up a custodial account for me. And I remember we would go to the bank every week. And at that time, it was passbook savings. And I remember every time I got my passbook, I would take a look at how much interest I accumulated and what compounded. And that was an exciting thing for me. I'm like, wait a minute, they're giving me money. And that was one of the things that encouraged me to add more money and to continue to save. But I want to segue to, in one of the areas that I cover, there's a big Hasidic Jewish community. And one of the things that I noticed that they do within their community is something similar to what my dad did, but still different. They would also bring their kids to the bank, and they would have their kids fill out the deposit tickets. They would have them make the deposits. You know, they would have them speak to the bank officers. You know, we would address their kids, you know, hey, Mr., you know, such and such. And, you know, I find that when you can raise a child's esteem around finances, it plants the seed. And I find that also a lot of kids nowadays, due to the popularity of what things like what we're doing, whether it be, you know, YouTube series or podcasts, I feel that more and more people are gaining access to information. And I'm seeing where people are starting to change some of their behaviors within my personal circles. So I think, you know, having that, again, you know, that hands-on approach, allowing, you know, the kids to get an experience at an early age, but also, you know, even, you know, if you have your kids around you, instead of watching TV, you know, maybe have a podcast playing in the background. Let them hear some of these, you know, ideas and things that we're talking about. And I think you'll probably start to break through. You don't have to beat it in their heads. Their experience will teach them, not you, you know. And so that's what I would say to that.
I have a couple of things that I want to say about this. So one, background plays a big factor. Like Shakima was saying, yes, psychology of money is a huge factor. Your financial knowledge and like the skill you have is only 15% of your whole financial picture. It's your financial history and your financial mindset that make up the other 85%. So there are three things that go into mindset. It's your financial history, what you saw your parents do with money, what you saw in your community. It's what you thought about money, right? Whether you had those conversations at the table or not. And then it's your financial knowledge, like what hardcore foundational basics do you know about budgeting, savings, etc. And then it's your habits. Now, this is where your personal choice comes into play, regardless of what you saw your parents do or anyone else. Now it's your money and what you're doing with it. So Scott, you said, what about the person who wants to wear their wealth? One of the things when I talk to young people, one of the things I'm always asking them is, do you want to buy the brand or own the brand? These are choices you have to make. You can buy a pair of Jordans, but on the next round, skip the Jordans and buy 5 shares of the stock. Because now you're not just a consumer, you're an owner. I'm not going to tell you you can't have any of it, but I'm going to tell you to balance yourself and buy the product. But if you like the product that much, you need to be an owner in it. So that's 2. 3, teach them to be responsible. So do you want to just look rich or do you actually want to be rich? Because anyone can look rich, but that doesn't mean you actually have any substance or the finances to carry it through. I'll share this personal thing about myself, which everyone hold on to their seats, but I'm the mom of 6 children. My 2 oldest, I know, I told you, hold on to your seats, Scott.
Yeah, I knew. That's why I was less shocked though. But she looks like she just graduated from college last week.
Yeah. And my 2 oldest kids are 18 and 20. And I teach finance for a living. And I still have moments when they are entitled. And I teach finance for a living. So it's not even the education that you give them. Sometimes it's just the environment around them that's influencing them. So 2 of them, they're going to Chicago this week on their first solo trip. And me and my husband were going to pay for them to go on this trip. And then we really sat back and we're like, what are we doing? Right? So we're like, here's what we'll do. We'll pay for your hotel. You've got to pay for your flights. One of my daughters has a job. The other one doesn't have a job. Well, daughter who doesn't have a job, if you'd like to go, my garage needs to be organized. And that's how you're going to earn your flight ticket. because that's what you have to do. It's not just about the education or letting them sit at the table. It's how can they get involved and be a part of the earning? How can they earn money? There's a meme floating around Instagram, and a guy tells his son to, like, I don't know, sweep the yard for $10 an hour. And the son says to him, well, Dad, if I could find somebody to do it for $5, can I keep the other 5? Like, these are the types of like thought process. You want those wheels to be turning in their mind and think about, how do I make money for myself? When they start having to spend their own money, it's a whole different ball game. Then they're very conservative. Like, no, I don't want those jeans. They're too expensive, you know? But when it's your money, they will spend it like it's water. So you have to start giving them opportunities to earn their own money very early so that they won't even want to wear all their income.
I think one of the really important concepts that we should teach our families, one, you should get together and have like a structured meeting. You should have some structured meetings with your family. 2, when you have that structured meeting, lay out an agenda and some points that you really want them to, know, whether it's about, business, how you're going to operate the business, how the bills, how the money is made, but the core element is net worth, what you own minus what you owe. And we don't think of like wealth, or a lot of families don't think of wealth in relation to net worth. They think like, oh, I got or I don't got. And then we're in a world where there's a lot of like really great information, and there's a lot of channels for great information, but there's a lot of noise that, that covers up the great information. And then it's almost like a cultural thing. So the music we listen to, the shows that we watch, I mean, it's all based on like consumerism, but if you just say, okay, what you own minus what you owe is going to determine where you are. So if you own all of these shares, and you don't have like a massive amount of debt, when you put those two numbers together, are you, how far are you in the plus column? How far are you in the minus column? And, and that's something that I'm doing with my own children. I mean, I talked about my parents being entrepreneurs and then me getting the bend to be a serial entrepreneur. But my daughter, made me like the proudest father ever, because during the pandemic, she started a design business. And so she started designing jewelry, and then she started selling it. And then all of a sudden, she's got enough money in her bank account that I got to pay taxes on that money, and it's like, and I'm like, hold on, FAFSA is coming, so we got to think about exactly what we're doing. But, and my wife is an entrepreneur as well. And, she went from the kitchen table, trying to figure out what she was doing to being a virtual assistant, to starting a social media business. And now she's got, major clients. So, and it's all in a few years. So my daughter turns around, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that I said, man, Zoe, what do you want to do and study? And so she talked about marketing, and she talked about the things that she had done in her business. She was like, Dad, what did you think I was going to do? She was like, I look at the two of you. She was like, what you think I was going to do? I mean, my heart jumped. That's an important lesson with our kids. So it's like, okay, now, is she still trying to spend all our money? Yeah. Is she still trying to do things at her own pace? Yeah. But that's kids, gaming your parents is your first place that you start out. But net worth, whether you're a prominent household or whether you're just getting by, savings, looking at ratios like, okay, so if you can't save this much money, start out saving whatever you can, then start out saving as a percentage. And I know I said that was the last thing, but I will close, my part.
No,
with
I don't want
saying
you to
this.
close yet because I got one more.
Oh, I'm not closing for our dialogue. I'm saying I'm gonna shut up, but I'm saying that the first entrepreneur, that made things happen in our family that I can remember was my great grandmother. My great grandmother, was the granddaughter of slaves, and she started a credit union, the first credit union in the church for the AME Zion, religion. So she started, a woman who was the granddaughter of slaves. Her parents were of first free generation of people, started a credit union. And we had like passbooks that we would go in and we would, put money in there. She, bought multiple houses by, doing very simple things, taking in laundry,
Mr. Hammond, you really money, huh? You money.
Well, and then I saw her do things like, like save. And she told me like the simple rule. She was like, every dollar you get, you got to save a dime, boy, 10%. And that was the first time I was a kid. I was just sitting at the breakfast table, but, but I got it like later on. Did everybody follow that rule always? No, but, it's like, so I think those simple concepts building up and then teaching, our families and learning, the net worth equation, and whatever debt ratios and paying off our debt is like, the big thing.
All right, go ahead, Ed, you're up. You're muted, Ed.
It's just great hearing about all this. And I'm just thinking about my personal relationship. And I think I got married 3 years ago. And the best thing that I could have done is just really talk about my debt and my student loans. And it's just the healthiest conversation I've had with my wife and just being transparent. And I think also it helped to think about it in terms of like mergers and acquisitions. Like, yes, I love you, but like, what are we actually doing in terms of our finances? And like, what are we gonna work towards? Like, I have my goals, you have your goals, but like, we gotta, come together and figure out what are we gonna be doing for our family, and going from there. So I think there's this huge stigma about debt that I mean, we talk about consumerism and wanting to be fly and whatever we wear, but I think in the back of our mind, at least for me, when it was just coming clean and talking about like, hey, this is what I really owe, and this is what and how are we gonna work and come up with a game plan to move forward.
Yeah.
I would just say two things. One, my mom always said that she didn't know she was poor until she got older. Like she just didn't know. And it's funny that she said that because when she raised us, she really shielded the money piece away from us. And so we grew up middle class, but in my mind, I just knew I had money for school. So when it was time to go to college and I had to get all those loans, I was like, what happened to my college fund? Like I was really, really confused about what happened to my college fund. So I always teach families that you should be bringing your kids into the fold with the conversations. So even, when we talk about public housing and we talk about people that we're helping and that low to moderate, definitely low income bracket is really important because you don't see it. You're buying your kids all of these nice clothes, nice shoes, and you don't talk to them about the struggle, and you don't have to put too much pressure on them, but you need to talk to them about, okay, we're going to buy these, this time, but I'm budgeting for next time to do something else. Or we can't get this birthday, but I'll get you these shoes that cost $80, not the 120 shoes. And that's because we want to go to Disneyland. So it's just really bringing them into the conversation a lot earlier. I teach my daughter, she's 5. The motto is work hard, play hard. So all the time, right? And so it's like, oh, you're working. I said, what does mommy work for? To get money. And what does money help with? And then, having that conversation, she's 5. And so it's not putting too much pressure, because a lot of my peers would say, I don't want to give them that much pressure, right? I have people who say, I don't want to talk to my kids about money and but no, you bring them in a way that's comfortable for your family and also dependent on your child. But it's definitely important not to shield the money conversations, because I thought that I was going to have a whole college fund, and
I'm going to say one thing about this whole college conversation. Be transparent with your kids about what you can afford when it comes to college. So my kids, I have been very clear with them from when they were 7 years old. Here is my agreement with them. If you go to a local community college, I will pay every dollar. Man, I'm going to throw in the books. You're going to get fancy pens, everything you want, because it's community college and I can pay that with my eyes closed. If you want to go to a state college, I'm going to pay up to $5,000 a year. And you are going to put some skin in the game to pay for the rest. It probably won't be much more than that. So you'll be good to go. If you want to go to a fancy, private, prestigious Ivy League school, I'm out.
Yeah, skin in the game. You need scholarships. You need to talk to them about that. They think that it's going to be like,
here's one thing. I got to jump in here, man, because my daughter's watching. I think she's saying, yeah. My pop put me through the same thing when I went through college. What happened to my money? And, I think her older brother and having them have skin in the game, as someone just mentioned, and this is your future, this is your education, and you've got to take ownership of it, because, I did the thing where, you did a whole semester, I saw the grades and I wanted to cry. You know what I mean? So, because my money I was like, what were you doing? And so, I think it's important for us to help, as was just said, our children have those conversations, not shy away from them, help them understand. I don't think it's too much pressure if it's done in a constructive management. And I want one more. I want to talk about generational wealth. Do we have time for that?
No, we're gonna. I'm gonna bring it in. I'm bringing it in there, but because I want to.
We may have to do part 4.
Yeah, I want to wrap up with this is the last thing, kind of rolling out. So I got a little bit of money. I got a little nest egg. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, how do I make this nest egg keep growing? If I put it in the bank, I'm getting 0.3% on it. It's not helping me out. If I put it in the stock market, it's up and down. I can lose it all. I don't know what to do with it. But I have a little nest egg but I wanted to keep it growing, because I understand I worked hard to put this nest egg away. I paid myself. I did all the right things. But how do I keep my nest egg rolling? So who wants to jump in first?
Can I interject real quick? I wanted to respond to something that Lilius just said. I love what you said, and I want to make sure other people receive it. And I think that they would, but it took me a second to process it myself, which is why I want to say something. When you said if they want to go to a fancy such and such school that you're out, that just means that they're in.
Yes.
They have to put themselves in play. That doesn't mean, well, I'm out too. You're the student. You need to figure out how to make it happen.
Yes.
And if they do the research, see, I got a lot of friends. I know Harvard is one example. I don't know about the other ones, right? Need-based admissions. A lot of people listening.
You get in.
If you have the grades and the extracurriculars, they will get you in, and your parents will not have to pay.
Yes.
But the kid has to do the work and research to know that that's true. So I'm saying, when you say I'm out, the kid has to tap themselves in. So I think that financial literacy is like a lot of other literacy conversations. I just wouldn't want anyone to mishear that the kid is out. The kid has to step up and step in and figure out how to make it happen, which is exactly, I know that's what you're saying. It's just, I had to take a second to process that for myself. All right.
So it's putting the responsibility on them to get all the scholarships they can to make that education happen, if that's what they want. Now I'll say something else to that. Number one, you should never pay more for college than your first year's salary is going to be when you graduate. If your tuition is $200,000, you need to have a career or a job that's going to pay you $200,000 out the gate. They don't exist, so you need to go somewhere else. That's like the plain and simple of it. It can't be that you're putting yourself, if you know you're going to be a journalist, we're not going to college to Harvard for journalism. While it's a great school, consider it for graduate school where you can get a fellowship, not for undergrad. Go cheap for undergrad. I have an Ivy League degree, but I got it in grad school, not in college, where I had to foot the bill myself entirely. And I was able to get scholarships. So I'll just drop that and I'm done.
So once again, I want to wrap it up because we got, we have in the 2.5, almost 3 years that we've been doing the barbershop, we haven't ended one show on time yet. So we're not even try to do it today. But Wayne, I see you have your hand up, but I wanted to kind of bring this to a close and get everybody, because I want to, like Mike said, part 4, I want to start talking to people. Okay, I got a little nest egg, I got some money, I got a little something set aside here, but I want to keep it rolling. I want to keep it growing. Are there, or what are some of the ways that people should be looking at and say, hey, you got this little nest egg, you got a little wealth, you got a little equity in your house, you got a little something. What should people be doing to continue to build that family wealth so they can keep passing it on because they have a good starting point? Anyone want to jump in there on that one?
Yeah, well, I would say first and foremost, you have to go see Dwayne Winter at JP Morgan. No, I mean, that's a great question. However, it's not a one product answer. There's so many things that go into a recommendation. I generally give advice to clients who sit down with people and they just shoot off the hip and tell them, put your money in this. I usually tell them to get up, because in that moment, they're trying to sell you something. They're not trying to really understand what it is that you're trying to do. In the gamut of investing, I mean, there's just so many things that you could do, from guaranteed insurance type products to variable products, different type of securities. I would really, again, and not to, be funny, but, recommend you find a financial advisor, someone who, has experience or certain licenses to make, to implement, not just make recommendations, but to implement these recommendations as well. And, help you to achieve, your vision. So that's what I would say. I know that's not what the audience wants to hear, but
that's the banking answer.
Yeah,
that's the banking
right?
answer.
That's all the restrictive answers for everyone in banking.
Yes.
I can say more because I'm a finance coach and I'm not limited by any sort of restriction, but I will say this is not financial advice, right? That's my disclaimer. You have to do your own research even before you go sit down with a financial advisor, because all investment involves risk. Mm-hmm. And when you have that nest egg, how much of it are you willing to risk? You need to understand what the risk exposure is of different investment products before you decide where you're going to move that money to, period. So like Dwayne was saying, there are some investments that are lower risk exposure. Then there are some that are higher. You have to understand what that means and get educated on investing before you move $1 of a nest egg.
And figure out what you want. So I always say, it starts with that too, figure out what you want. So a lot of people say, okay, I have this money, but what's your vision for your money? And even not so much before you even get to what vehicle to put it in and what risk factor, right? What is your vision for your money? What do you want to do for your family? What does your legacy look like? It's more about that mindset and that planning before you even sit down, because if you don't do that first, you're going to get swayed. If you're sitting with the wrong person. And that's why I like that Dwayne said, find someone who, if they start spitting off products, just get up. And it's great to be with someone who's not attached to a financial institution, but it doesn't mean that you can't be with someone who's attached to a financial institution. But that's why when you go in there with knowing what you want, I tell people who's shopping for insurance the same thing. What do you want the insurance product to do? Before you go sit with anyone, what do you want it to do? So what do you want your money to do? What's your vision for it? And then do the research and then go sit with someone. So it's what do you want it to do? What type of risk exposure? And then you go have the meeting with the financial professional.
Anyone else?
I think they really covered it like so well. I don't even want to like jump in, but yeah, you gotta have your goals. You gotta know what you wanted to do. Go get like informed help, and yeah, and be prepared to manage your expectations, because a lot of people, and there's a lot of noise out there about a lot of like schemes and products and things that are not going to equal up or tend not to equal up for people. So, but yeah, so I just jumped in for GP, but they did a great job.
I know you couldn't resist.
I couldn't resist. I was like, is he cueing me? I mean, what am I doing?
I know people want to hear that quick. So I like that Dwayne started with like, there's so many products, people want, okay, I have this money. What do I do with it? But it's not that simple, right? And if it is that simple, then you probably do want to get up. If someone's just telling you, we could give you ideas for days, but it's not that simple.
Well, folks, we're winding down. We're over our time already, but stay tuned for part 4 of your finances that we're going to do, because we're going to get it right, because we're going to make this turn, and we're going to be able to become, is it lenders, not, what is the other way? Not buyers or whatever. We're going to be able to have more wealth.
Owners.
Say it again.
Owners.
We're going to be owners, not buyers. So we want to be able to get everybody to have a healthy financial life moving forward. So as we wrap up, we're going to have our panelists give their last comments, be able to say something, give out some information, maybe the information, how you get in contact with them. And once again, we want everybody to be able to grow from here. One thing that we do, and I'm really proud of being part of the program DYCD under the CAP program, where we're really trying to build wealth and trying to help our community lift themselves out of this kind of red line life that they may have, and be able to help people to get out of poverty, because that's what our key is. And it's so nice that when you can see people moving and doing great things. And once again, this is hopefully a venue that's going to help people to find their way out of poverty, or help lead them out of poverty, or give them a stepping stone out of poverty, because that's what we want to be. That's what we're doing. And that's hopefully that you're getting from this show that we're doing. So we're going to start with Felix. Felix, any last words?
Well, thank you for having me. And this was great. I actually learned a lot from this today as well. So this is good. Thanks. You can reach me if you want to schedule something with me. This is free financial counseling. I'll give you my number, which is 718-690-9873. You can call there and schedule appointments with us. Not only me, but with any other counselor at Arriva. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Felix, can you throw it in the chat so we can get it out? Throw it in the chat. Throw the phone number in the chat. Okay. Dwayne, you not?
You're on
Dwayne,
mute.
you are on mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry about that. Wait. Okay, good. I'm good now. Good. I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity, and everyone on this panel opportunity to share our experiences. And for those who are watching this, my parting words is failing to prepare is preparing to fail. It's cliche, but it's something that I hold very dear and true to myself, something that I use with every client meeting that I have. And so I really encourage you guys to, whoever's watching this, really think about, as I said, what does your dream look like? What does your vision look like? And you need to see that vision, and then you need to figure out now, how do you implement it? So, and we touched on obviously budgeting, we touched on networking, we touched on a lot of great topics. And so for those who watching this live, go back, try to listen to some of the points that we were discussing, and might have been something that you might have missed, but something that could be very impactful for the rest of your life. So thank you guys again for the opportunity.
And Dwayne, throw that restaurant in there so we can buy.
Oh yeah, man. So if you guys can't see Savvy Bistro, right in Brooklyn, right not too far from the Barclay, 5 minutes away from the Barclay Center, 710 Nostrand Avenue. You know, so you guys are into American Caribbean cuisine. That's what we specialize in. Open every day, 1 to 11, Monday to Wednesday, and Thursday we go a little later. The week towards the weekends we go later. So you guys,
I gotta come through the Barclay every day coming home. So I'm gonna have to bypass the Barclay one day and not jump on that Long Island Railroad and come on over. So
you know what, or get parking by me, because you know parking sometimes over there is kind of difficult.
No, I take the train. I jump on the train. I can walk.
Oh, okay, all right. So I'm right between 2 train lines, man. It's Eastern Parkway, Atlantic. So I'm right in the middle of both of them. So you know, definitely.
Make sure you throw it in the chat. Jason.
Yeah, so I would just add that it's important to understand that managing money is an applied skill. And so if you think about other applied skills in our lives, like driving a car, et cetera, right? You get education, you get a lot of practice. Unfortunately, we don't do that with money. And so I think it's really important, given that context, to one, prioritize money in your life, and then to seek out help in education and training. And I think there are a lot of great resources on this call. But I just think that context is important, because there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of pain around money. And I think it's important for people to realize is that they weren't taught this, sometimes purposefully, and, you know, but it can be changed.
Thank you. Ed?
All I have to say is, you know, we're here for you. So DYCD, DCWP, all the acronyms, SBS, I mean, different city agencies, we have free resources that we can provide. So the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, as I mentioned before, free tax prep, and we're going to expand that to small businesses next year, entrepreneurs. So just look out for that. I'm going to share our website. It's got this year's tax information, but we'll be updating it come next tax season. And yeah, we're here to help our communities.
Kofi? Kofi, still with us? There you go.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here. Thank you, everybody, for all our listeners. I learned a lot myself too. And it is extremely important, in my view, that we continue to share ideas and resources. JP Morgan Chase in 2020, actually, Shakima said, created Minority Entrepreneur Program. And the good thing about the program that we do, we mentor minority small business owners. There's no production obligation. So that means that you don't have to be a JP Morgan Chase customer for you to utilize the services that we do. It's all free. Our motivation is that so that we can help our brothers and sisters to grow their business and able to hire from within our community. So I hope the ideas that we share together, some of us will grow with it and be able to continue to explore their entrepreneurship and able to grow their business and able to hire from within so that our communities will grow. So once again, I thank you all. And if you want to reach me, please reach out to Shakima. I'll be able to get everything from her. Thank you all.
Wayne?
First of all, I want to thank you for having me tonight, Scott and Mike, and to my wonderful colleague Shakima for inviting me. I'm just going to leave you with words I live by. Ability is what you're capable of. Motivation determines what you do, but your attitude determines how well you do it. I wish you a lifetime of success.
Love it, love it. Shakima.
Thank you for this opportunity. And, you know, each one teach one. We all learned from each other tonight, and it was a great experience. I just want to say that with JP Morgan Chase, with the $30 billion commitment, our goal is to help reduce racial disparity. And as a community manager, the main goal is to provide free financial health education, listen to our community, and connect and build trust in our community, making sure that we understand that when it comes to wealth, generational wealth, we need to be educated. And we want to make sure that our communities are aware that there's access throughout the United States when it comes to understanding about our finances, because when it comes to Blacks and Latinos, we are disadvantaged, and we want to make sure that we give everyone an equitable opportunity to be financially resilient in good times and bad times.
Wow, thanks, Shkima. And Shkima, I know you're gonna be going big places. Just let me know when you become the president. We're gonna have you back on again. So, and next we're gonna have let's say Leonard. Let's talk to Leonard. Leonard, can you hear me?
Are you trying to say me?
Lilius.
Lilius.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Lilius.
Well, so the last thing I'll say is personal finance is personal. And so as you're getting educated, make sure that you're also talking with someone who can speak to your specific situation, your specific learning style, your history, and fill in the gaps for you. There's no one formula that works for finance. What works for one, you may try a different strategy and do something different. You can still get to the same result. You can find me online. I do a lot of posting on Instagram and Facebook, Your Financial Stylist. My website is the same name, yourfinancialstylist.com.
Manuel?
So the last thing I will say is that you got to just start where you are. There's a ton of free resources. We talked about a ton of them. If you Google free resources, now we know there's a lot of information, but just get started. I would rather you just get started. Start where you are, get some information. There's free resources, and also with Mochify, we have with me 15-minute money chat with any of our coaches. You can access that by visiting our Facebook group, Mochify's Facebook group, and book under services, a 15-minute money chat, talk about money. We'll direct you to resources as well as give you some basic direction.
And Mr. Hamill, let you wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate being with all of you this evening. So thanks, Mike and Scott, for having me. And I would say that one, master the basics. So that's saving, budgeting, and realizing the concept of net worth, using that as your wealth marker, and set some real goals for yourself. And you can reach me at hfbsolutions.com, and so every Wednesday I host Webinar Wednesday, which I do a series of free financial seminars, and I'm covering a series of 6 ways to cut college costs now. So again, go to hfbsolutions.com, go to the events page, register, and it's totally free. And let's empower ourselves and let's empower our children, and that way we'll pass on generational wealth as well as the education. So thank you.
I see we have it in the chat too. So great that we can pass that on. So Mike, another successful barbershop. I think we got some more jewels in the gold mine.
Yeah, I heartily agree. Let me say, because we had a number of panelists from the private sector, it's never DYCD's position to steer members of the audience to a particular private sector company or to do business with a particular person or entity. So I'm just saying that, so that's in the record. But I think the good thing here is we were really smart and we got a lot of great people, a lot of great people from a lot of different walks of life, who also made it abundantly clear how many things they are willing to offer for free. And I think some of the advice a moment ago too is do your research and figure out what's a good fit. So I think if we leave everyone who is listening to the barbershop with a host of resources, these panelists, the resources that they provided, the resources that we put in the chat, people are going to be on their way. A few of those gems that really stood out for me is thinking about your personal credit like it's money. That is a game shifter. I wish someone had sat me down 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago and said that, because your investment, what you're saying about yourself and your future earnings and how much you're worth and how much you will be able to repay if it's a loan or generate or leverage. I thought there was a lot of power in that. And I just love so many things that were said today, whether it's about net worth, or credit, or really about how to manage, talking about money with our family. A lot of really constructive strategies and suggestions. And so if people walk away with nothing else, and I can't imagine people won't walk away with a lot, I think just finding a place to start, and then finding people. See, I look for thread throughs, as you do too, from other barbershop conversations about building your tribe. Start generating conversations with people you can rely on who are in your corner about money, and start being more transparent with people that you can feel safe and comfortable being in conversation with. Maybe it's just your kids, maybe it's just your spouse, but start building toward that, because that is going to help reinforce and help people get where they're going. The other thing that really struck me is this is a long-term game. So when we get to the session 4 or whatever, we're going to continue to talk about this generational wealth, these little decisions that we might make 10 years ago. All right, that's 10 years. We did it, we didn't do it. These little decisions that we may make now can make a big difference 10 years from now. Yeah. Oh, I see people in the chat saying they love these gems too. So thank you, Toya, and other listeners. Yeah.
Mike, I can't remember, one of the panelists even talked about, just taking your pocket change and putting it in a jar. I got a lot of water bottles around here with pocket change, and people don't even realize that. I got to find one of those change machines that will take it, but just your pocket change of just putting it away and putting it aside, how you start building wealth. And someone told me, I haven't tested out yet, but they said if you fill up a water bottle of change, you probably got about $1,000 worth of change in that water bottle. So I got a couple of water bottles around the house that I need to cash out. But I'm so happy that we were able to get there, and hopefully these are some gems. Like Toya said in the chat on YouTube, she has some gems. This is what this program is all about, helping you get some gems and some ideas and things that help you build your wealth, build your self-esteem, get to know yourself better, give you some leads in life that we can help you move better, because we want to be a better New York. We want to be a better people, and we want to make sure that we're helping you any way we can by bringing these experts in from the community that you have opportunity to talk to and talk with. So until next time, that we'll be talking later in the month of August. Check us out. Not sure what the title's going to be for August. We have a couple of things we're throwing around, but we will be here back in August for the barbershop, and we'd love to have you there. Don't forget, if you would like to suggest a topic or some information or be part of our panel, don't hesitate to write to DYCD. You can write to fatherhood@dycd.gov and put it in your information, and you can send a message to us if you have something you want to offer or talk to us. So at this time, I want to thank all my panelists again. Mike, I kind of missed Jerry because that was our third leg. I hope he's out there watching. Here's Jerry. We're still thinking about you, and we miss you. But we're going to wrap it right now. We're going to take it out with our barbershop music that was written by Diverse. So Dave, take us out. Have a good night, everybody. Be safe and get your money right.
DYCD Barbershop Talks. Fatherhood matters. Diverse. Hey yo, these is barbershop talks where the fathers pop off, brag about relationships and argue about sports. Every topic's a favorite, is how we plot course toward changes. It all begins with dialogue and patience. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. It's barbershop talk, so let's chop it up, boys. Chop it up, boys. Chop